Hey everyone, it's TK Friday. Today it's all about refining masks. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Hey, it's TK Friday again. Can you believe it? These weeks go by so fast for me. I don't know about you. And just as a reminder, there's a new course out on producing better prints. It's a really good one. This is one we all need, especially if we like to print. It's by Sean Bagshaw and Jack Schneff. It's $49, but you can use a special code BP20 and save an additional 20% off. And that expires May 31st, so you have a little bit of time yet. But you can also use my code DK15 with that and save an additional 15% off. It ends up costing you like $33.32, so it's a good savings. And don't forget Tony Kuiper's TK8 plugin for Photoshop. If you don't have that yet, pick it up. You can also use my promo code DK15, save 15% off that or any of the training videos on Tony's website. So a lot of good savings this month. Anyway, let's get started. We're working with refining masks today. And I really want to get into the actual refinement of the masks and maybe clear some things up and maybe show you some things you didn't already know that you can do when you're refining your masks. Because refining masks is very important, especially when we're using the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, and we really want really great editing results. I'll be working on 3 different images, and I will leave the download links in the description so you could download these and follow along if you so choose. And I want to thank everyone for your comments and questions and words of encouragement. The comments are great, and I think we all learn when we interact with one another. I learn things from you, you learn things from me. It's great. On this image, what I want to do first is, I believe this is a hummingbird, I'm pretty sure, but what I want to do is this, I'm going to call it a collar on this bird. I don't know if that's probably not the right word, but it looks like a collar to me. So I'm going to work on this first. So let's figure out what kind of a mask we can use. So let's take a look at the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, the MultiMask Panel. Now up here we have these different masks here. You know, we have luminosity, zone masks, color masks, and saturation masks. Man, we got the whole gamut covered, and that's amazing. Well, we have a lot of color in here, so I'm thinking the first thing I'm going to try, because I have lots of color information, I'm going to go ahead and try a color mask. And what I'll do is just come here and sample something that I think will represent a lot of that color. It's like an orange right there. I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, that's making a nice selection. Now, we have refinement tools, right? Now, the first refinement tool we're going to find right here in the color mask. We have this color bar across here. We can click on different colors if we want to. And then we have this spectrum range slider where we can widen out the range of colors that it's getting or narrow them in. And so let's see, what if I widen this out? Let's just see. I like to experiment. I'll widen this out a little bit. Yeah, it's not really helping much. So I'm going to bring this back in and let's try this one. Let's go to the left here. No, it's not really doing much. So that's not doing a whole lot. But then we have this brightness slider right here. So we can take this and move it to the right and brighten up that selection. Because remember, in a layer mask, white reveals and black conceals. So we want to reveal all this color information in this area that I'm calling a color. So we're going to make that as light as we can make it. Okay. And then this adjustment over here, this is like a feathering. And if you're not seeing the help screen, which Tony put into all the tools on his panel, if you hold your Alt or Option key down and hover over things, it'll tell you what these different tools all do. And this one is, this slider sets the color feathering of the color mask. Pull left for less feathering into similar colors and pull right for more feathering into similar colors. So let's go ahead and do that. If we move this to the right, see how it's feathering? And if I move it to the left, it'll give us less feathering. So these are all the refinement tools. And don't forget to use these things. Try them out. This is really going to give you better selections, and better selections give you better images at the end. I need to correct myself. These are not all the refinement tools. This is dealing with the actual colors and the hues of the colors. But then we also have this whole section right here in this gray tone here. So these are all our other tools. We have tools like the levels adjustment, curves adjustment. We have a black brush that we can paint on our mask and a white brush. And I'm going to introduce you to this tool today. This is going to be the star of the show. And if I hold my Option or Alt key down and hover over this, this is called the Mask tool. Let me read this. Make a selection with a standard selection tool like lasso. Then click this button, Feather Selection. Dialog opens. Feathering avoids hard edges. A feather radius is calculated and displayed where it can be adjusted. Or cancel this dialog to apply no feathering to the selection. The updated mask conceals the pixels outside the selection. And that's the exciting part, that it conceals it. And you'll see that shortly coming up here. I love this tool. And next to the Mask tool, we have the Invert tool, which will invert your mask. Let me go ahead and click it and you'll see how the mask inverts. Very handy. And the last refinement tool is this Undo tool. So let me hold the Option or Alt key down and hover over this. This button will undo all modifications and return the mask to what it looked like before doing any modification on it. In other words, anytime you use any of these modifications here, like a paintbrush, say for instance, if I were to paint like a white streak on here like so, and then I hit the undo, it'll just undo it to that point that I started using these tools. All the settings I made up here, it will not affect. So that's very important to know that. And this gives you a lot of room for experimentation, because if you start trying some different things out, like levels or curves or paint brushes, or using this Mask tool, and these things aren't working out, you can go ahead and undo and get back to the original settings that you set up here and then try again. Just click that undo button and all those will be reset. If you're a regular follower of my TK Friday videos, you know I like to use this button right here where I output my mask to a black mask and I paint it on through a selection, which is very great when you want to use different opacities on your brush to bring out more adjustment in one area, less in another, and it gives you a lot of room and flexibility there. But sometimes you just want to work on one area. Like as I said, I just want to work on this collar right here, right? So I have a lot of things that are selected in with that orange color. There's other orange tones all over this image, but I only want this collar, so I can isolate this collar out, and I'm going to show you how I do that today, and then we'll just be affecting that one area. Now, there's different ways we can get rid of the other areas here. Like I can grab a brush, like say the black brush, and I can say, well, I'm going to paint off this beak and the top part of this head, and I want to start painting over here. But there's another way I can do it. So let me go ahead and show you how I can undo what I just did. So I'll click that undo button, right? And they're all back. Okay, so I can try again. Is there a better way? And yes, I believe there is. Now, I'm going to use a lasso tool. Now, the shortcut on Photoshop for lasso tool is L. So just type L on your keyboard. And then just draw a selection right around this bird's collar. Make sure you don't get any areas inside the collar, and there it is right there. Once you've done that, come over to the TK8 Combo or CX panel, and you can see I have a selection. You can see the selection indicator. And now the Mask tool, just give that a click. A feather selection will come up. We don't have to do anything here. If you want to change the radius, you could go ahead and if you drag off to the left, you can change the radius. And that's there in case you have to feather anything. And this feather radius is calculated by the TK8 MultiMask Panel. And if you don't want to put a feather on there, which I don't because I have a really good selection, just click cancel. And just like that, you've isolated your selection area. Now, if I want, I can further refine. So I could come here and click on the levels adjustment, and I could come here and make further adjustments here, like lighten it up a little bit, maybe somewhere around there. Or I could reset this and say, and I don't use this too often, but the curves adjustment tool could be really great too. So let me click on it. And with it, you can grab this target adjustment tool, click on it. And if I want to lighten up light areas, click on a light area and just kind of drag up. And like an area that you would like a little darker, like maybe right here, I can click here and just drag that down a little bit and just refine that mask a little bit more. And I like that. And I think I'll leave that like that. And also you have this, see this little red square? If you click on that, you can see what the mask looks like. Any of the red areas will be really selected and you can visualize it that way. I don't usually use that, but you have that too if you like that. I generally use mine as a black and white mask because I'm used to that. And now that I've got this area nicely selected, I just need to output it. So I want to adjust the saturation. I'll click on this icon to get a Hue Saturation Adjustment layer. And there it is right there. Now all I need to do at this point is drag this saturation slider to the right and increase that saturation. And I think I'll stop right here at 60. Now here is the before and here is the after. I just have two more adjustments I want to make. The bird's belly, I think I want to make the darker feathers a little bit darker, and the lighter feathers I'm going to leave the way they are. I think if I darken the darker feathers, I'll add a little bit more contrast and interest. Now let's go ahead and make this mask. I'm going to try a zone mask first. I think that'll work. So let me click the zone mask icon and click some of the darker areas in here, like right here, and click OK. And it makes that selection, and it looks pretty good. Now, with a zone mask, this is very important. I'll spend a little bit of time here because you have a lot of different things you can do. See all the numbers of all the different zones. See, you can see right now, my selection is right around a zone 3.5. Now you could try, let's click on 3, and remember, I'm looking for the darker parts of the bird's belly. And if you want to see where they're at, you can click this double arrow here, and you can see the image itself. So in this area right in here is where I selected. So let's go back and look. See right in here? So if I click on 3, we can see what that looks like. 3, because remember it was around 3.5. We could try 4. And that selects a little more. I'm just going to take this slider now and just drag it back just a little bit. And I'm just looking to make that area just a little bit lighter. I think that's okay. And then we have this slider here. Now, I always call this tightening and lightening. So I can tighten up my selection by watch. I'm going to take this slider and move it into the left. This tightens up the selection. What I want to do is try to get as much black around this bird as I can to help me with my selection. So I'm just going to pull this in. And now I have some nice separation here. You see that? I don't want to go too much, but just to get some nice separation. That may be just a little bit too much. I think that's good. Because remember, I'm only on the belly of the bird. Now I can lighten that up. So tighten with this one, lighten with this one. So let's lighten that up a little bit. And remember, I can use my levels or my curves, and I think I'm okay. I don't think I need that. So I'm going to go right to the star of the show today, and that's the mask tool. And now with my lasso tool, remember you can just type L to get it. I'm just going to draw right around here and pick up all that area of the bird's belly, like so. And then all I need to do is click the mask tool, and I don't want any feathering because I have a nice selection. I'll just click cancel, and voila, it selects that easily. Now all I need to do is output my selection, and to do that, I think I'm just going to use a curves adjustment layer. I'm just going to click this, and that applies that mask to this layer. And all I want to do here is change the blend mode. I'm not touching the curve. I'm changing the blend mode to multiply, and look at my feathers are dark. Look, here is the before, and here's the after, just like that. And if the effect's too strong, just take the opacity and you can slide it back if you need to. And I think I'll leave it right about 75. Here's the before and here's the after, just adding a little bit of contrast to the bird's belly. And I think that looks pretty good. It may be a little too strong, but if it is, you can pull it back. But I think that looks okay. Before we move on to the next image, what I want to do is just bring out some of the saturation in the bird's head. Now, I did try a color mask, and that didn't work. I thought it would. And so next I tried a zone mask, and that's what worked for me. So we're going to use the zone mask. So I'm going to get some of the green in the bird's head here, like maybe right here, and click OK. And that's making a pretty nice selection. Now what I'm going to do is do some modifications here, and you can see here I'm right on the cusp of a 5. Is that a good word, cusp? Anyway, let's see what zone 5 looks like. Yeah, I like zone 5. It just pulls it in really nice. Now, I may just drag it a little bit to the left. That's getting lighter. So I just want to lighten it as much as I can. Yeah, maybe right around there I think looks really good. Now, let's go ahead and tighten. And what I'm doing by tightening is I'm trying to get black around here so I can make a really good selection. That's my train of thought here. I'm just going to pull this tightening slider in until I get black. And now I'm getting pretty good black. I just might bring it in just a little bit more right there. Okay, now let's lighten up the selection with this brightness slider. Lighten it up a good bit here. Maybe something. Let's go the whole way up, I think. Yeah, I think that's going to be good. I don't think I'll have to touch the levels or curves. I think I'm going to be okay. And now I only want the bird's head right. I could use a lasso tool to get around here, but let's try something different. We can use other selection tools. I'm going to try the object selection tool. Now here's a little tip when you're using the object selection tool. And by the way, I have this set to the lasso mode. And so what I'll do is click this double arrow so I can see the image. It'll make a better selection. Plus I can see the green parts. So I'm just going to drag around here, staying away from the eye like this. And you can see it makes a pretty good selection. Now it's picked up some of the beak here, but I don't care. I'll show you how I fix that. Okay, and now I can go back and see my mask by clicking the double arrows again, okay? And again, what I want to do is click on the mask. And I'm not going to feather. I'm just going to click cancel and it will select that area. Now I can grab my black brush and I can just come up in here. I have a nice soft feathered edge on here and I can just paint out any areas that I don't want. I'm going to make my brush small and just, it's like I said, it's nice and feathered. I'm just going to paint this little section off in here and here and in here. And I don't think there was any green down in there. So I'm just going to go like that. And that's it. But I'm seeing this little, see this little light area right in here. I'm just going to paint that off. I don't think I want that. I think I'm going to be okay by painting that off. Okay, now all I need to do is output this. And I'm just changing the saturation. So we'll output it to a Hue Saturation Adjustment layer by clicking here. And now we can just take the saturation slider and start to drag it to the right. And you see, I can get all the saturation there I want. I don't want to go too crazy, but I think right around here should do the trick. Here is the before and here's the after, so pretty cool. Let's take a look at the overall before and after. I can hold my Option or Alt key down and click this eye to see the before, and then click it again to see the after, or I can use my before or after action that I made, and I have videos showing you how to do this on my YouTube channel. I'll try to remember. I'll link it at the end of this video if I don't forget. If I do, you can look at my channel. But I'm going to click this. Here's the overall before, and here is the after. And that's all I want to do in this image. And now we'll move on to another one. And now we're going to work on this image. The only thing I want to do in this image, well, there's three things. I want to bring the contrast out in this grass area up front. Because if you look back here, there's a lot of contrast here. It seems odd that we don't have the contrast here. And to bring that contrast out, all I need to do is darken up the shadow areas. That's what I'll do first. And then there's a little bit of a mist here. I'm going to bring some mist out in here, and then I'll work on the sky. This will be real quick, but this is, again, keeping with the theme of refining a mask. Now, what type of a mask should I choose? Well, I started out, I tried a zone mask, but the shadows got a little blocked up. So I thought, I think I can do better. So then I went to a luminosity mask. So let's click on luminosity mask. Now I know I want dark tones. Okay, so right now I'm doing light tones. So let's click on darks 1. Now the light areas are the darker tones that I want to select. Now that's a little too broad. So let me go down to a darks 2. And let's try darks 3 as well. I think I'm going to go with a darks 3 on this one. And I'm going to refine it by clicking on the levels. That's the one I like to use. So I'm going to use this, and what I'll do is, let's see if I can lighten up those areas by moving this over like so. And let's take in the highlight slider and drag it over like this, just to touch the edge here. That's nice and light. And I'll take the shadow slider and drag it in. I'm trying to get rid of this area around the water right here. So let's just drag it in like that. And I think that's going to work. Now, remember, the star of the show is the mask. So I'm going to grab, instead of a lasso tool or an object selection tool, let's grab a marquee tool. There's always the right selection tool. So what I want to do is come right into this area, right about here, and drag out a marquee selection, just like that. Click on the mask button. I don't want any feathering, so I'm going to click cancel, and I've selected that area right there. Now, some of this stuff up in here I don't need, so let me just grab a brush, and I'll get a brush, and I'll make it larger, and I have 0% hardness on it, and I'm just going to paint this off in here. Just like this. Just to clean that up a little bit, I think that'll help. We have all these tools, and remember, this is all about refining the mask. And now I need to output it. I'm going to go ahead and output it to a curves adjustment again. Now, I'm only using that for the multiply blend mode. I could have used the levels. It doesn't really matter. Any adjustment layer pretty much will work. Now, I'll change the blend mode to multiply, and check it out. Here is the before, and here's the after. But look at that. It really darkened up my dark tones and gave me, you know, now this matches this back in here. And if I had too much, I could pull back in this opacity, but I think that's good. And next, I'm going to work on this mist. Now, this mist is nice and delicate and wispy, so I want to be gentle here. I don't want to go too crazy. So the best way to accomplish that, I think, is painting through a selection. So to do that, I'm going to grab a curves adjustment layer. And all I want that curves adjustment layer for is to use a blend mode. I'm going to change the blend mode to screen. That'll lighten everything up, okay? But then I want to hide my adjustment. So I'm going to click this icon right here. That'll put a black mask on here. It hides the adjustment. And I think a zone mask is going to work. So I'm going to click the zone mask icon and pick one of these tones in here, like maybe right here, and click OK. And if we look, that's a pretty nice selection, but I would like it to be a little more textured. So I'm going to try some of these different zones. Right now I'm like on around zone 7. Let's try zone 8. Yeah, that's looking more like it. I'm going to try zone 9. That gives me even more texture, and it's not a real light selection, so that's good, I think, for me, because this is going to be delicate. I don't want to put too much lightness here, so I think that's fine. So I'm going to output that to a black mask, painting through a selection with a white brush. I'm all set up for that. You can see the selection indicator here. The selection, the marching ants are actually hidden, so you can't see them. You probably wouldn't see them anyway because that's a pretty light selection. But with white paint at about, I'll start out at, let me try 10% and start painting some of these areas. And I'm just going to bring up this mist over here. I'll paint more in certain areas than others. I'm going to come over in here, paint this. I don't want to go too much down in here. A little bit of this mist coming off of here and on here, maybe a little more. And again, I want to vary it. And if I paint over an area again, it'll add a little bit more of that amount. And maybe over here just a little bit, maybe a little bit more in here. Let's take a look. Here is the before and here's the after. Before and after. And maybe I'll just build up some areas a little bit more. And I'm only painting at 10% because I want to be careful here and not go too crazy. Paint up in here a little bit and maybe in here a little bit. Now let's take a look. Here is the before and here's the after. And that's all I really want to do there. I just want to bring some of that smoky, misty look out. Now, if we want to see what this mask looks like, we can click this icon right here and we can take a look. That's what I painted right there. And you can see some areas are lighter than others, okay? And so click this again, we can see it again. And again, here is the before and here is the after. And next, I'm going to work on the sky. Now for the sky, we're going to use the sky selection button right here on the TK8 CXer combo panel. So click that, and that's going to select the sky. And then all we need to do is come up to My Channels, click on that, click on the active selection. We're going to use a mask calculator because I'm going to intersect this with a luminosity mask. So let's click on the mask calculator. Let's click the X for intersect. And now we're going to X out of here. And what I want to do is go to luminosity masks, and I would just want a lights one. I'm going to click equals, and you can see there's my selection. I'm going to simply output it to a curves adjustment layer. Again, it could have been a levels. It doesn't really matter because I'm just going to use a blend mode. I'm going to change this from normal to multiply. And just like that, here is the before and here is the after. Now, if that's too strong, you could take the opacity and pull it back a little bit. And I might just pull it back to say like 90. Yeah, 90 looks good. Here's the before and here's the after. And now it balances out the image really nicely. And that's all I want to do. And I just have one final image for you. And it's a little bit different, something I've never done before. So, and it's short, but stay tuned. It's kind of a bonus. But first, let's see the overall before and after. I'm going to use my before and after action. Here's the overall before, and here is the after. I really like this image of a girl dreaming. That's what I call it. It's really cool, but I thought, what would it look like with a little different color on it, like a color grade? I'm not going to use a color grade tool. We're going to come up and click on this button right here. This is going to give us a photo filter. I'm going to click that. And now we have this photo filter, and there's a drop down here, and you have all these different photo filters in here. Okay, so right now we're on a warming filter 85. Let me pull up the density and see what it looks like. You know, I could really warm this image up, and that looks kind of nice. But let's find one that we could use something a little different. I'm going to try a cooling filter. I'm thinking more of a cooling filter. Now I like that. Let's try this one, this LBB. I don't know where they come up with these names, but I kind of like this one. I'm going to pull the effect up the whole way, or maybe not quite. Maybe right around there. Now that in itself looks okay. It's not great, but it looks okay, but I think we can make it better. So let's see if a luminosity mask will help out here. What do you think? Do you think we'll get a better result? Well, let's find out. I'll go ahead and hide this adjustment. I'll put a black mask on it. Click this icon on the CX or combo panel. That hides it. I have a lot of green in here, and that's what I want to affect. So I'm going to get a color mask. That's going to work, I think. So I'm going to pick some of these lighter green tones in here, maybe somewhere right around in here, and click OK. And that makes a pretty good selection. But let me go ahead and lighten it up. I'm going to go ahead and lighten that up a good bit. And maybe something like that. I think that's doing pretty well. Now, you can see some of the girls still selected here. So I'm going to take this feather adjustment and drag it into the left. And look, when I do that, I can pretty much darken her up. Right like that. Now let's grab a brush tool, because remember, we're really refining masks today. And with black paint, I'll make my brush a little smaller and paint this off right in here. But look at that beautiful selection I have. I couldn't have got that good of a selection with a select subject, because believe me, I did try it and it wasn't good. But this is so quick and so easy. And now all I need to do is come here to this icon right here. This will apply that to that photo filter, apply the mask. So click this, and there's my mask right on there. Now that looks really pretty, and we can go with this density and readjust it, and I think right around there is really nice. But there's a problem here. See how the girl doesn't really fit in with the scene, because there's none of that like bluish tone on her or lavender tones. And there's a really easy fix for that. And make sure you're on the layer mask. So click on the layer mask and see this density slider. This is really cool. If I start to drag this to the left, the girl gets lighter, but you notice I put some of that adjustment on top of her just to marry her into the scene. See how everything has got lighter there? And the effect gets slightly stronger, but that looks really pretty. But check this out. Here is the before and here's the after. But just that simple. The girl dreaming now looks like she's in a real dream. Let's see what this would look like without this layer mask. So let me go ahead and click on this X button right here. So that's what it looks like. Not very good, right? Compared to this. Well, there it is. Today it was all about mask refinements, and I wanted to really dig into some of the refinement tools. I hope you like that mask, the mask tool. I think it is a very useful tool. And if you do, please let me know in the comment section below. Hey, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon. Then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me here today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.